Hello, this is Purge, bringing you guys a replay coaching. This was signed up for by Jason. He is a 3,800 player as of the time that he submitted this, and some of his text says that he feels like he's plateaued a little bit and he wants to keep getting better. So that's why I signed up for coaching. So the two games that we're going to be covering are, we've got a Magnus game and a Queen of Pain game that we're going to be looking at. I'm going to start the Magnus game here. So, I do not know which lane he's going to be playing in. I would hope mid. Mid Magnus is a lot better than going offlane Magnus. Offlane Magnus is not really survivable enough is the main issue. It looks like you're going to be up against a TA. First issues, I do not know why you're here. You should be heading towards a rune spot because as mid you want to grab your rune. That way you can get 100 gold closer to your bottle. Very, very important you do this because the faster you get the bottle means the faster that you can sustain in your lane. And I imagine that the reason that you're going 2 sets of regen is because you feel like it helps you get to the bottle a little bit more safely. But the reality is that if you're playing well, you don't need to crutch on things like a clarity and a salve. You're also probably against a TA. Oh god, I actually don't know. I have no idea what their lanes are. Their lanes are actually terrible. They have basically 3 mids at least, minimum. All 3 of these heroes are very typically mid, and I honestly don't know what to expect. If you're against an alchemist, I'm kind of okay with the stout shield tango, but I think you could get away with a fast bottle. Maybe you went mid to check for wards or something, I'm not sure. If you're against a TA, I kind of feel like you can get away with just going stout shield myself. You should really be fighting him for a bounty rune. There's no way that you should let that go away. If you have decent movement speed, if you're at all at 300, you can get to the lane fast enough or to actually block while also getting a rune. And in fact, you're actually already giving up on a lot of opportunity for yourself to body block here. So not only did you give up on the bounty rune, but you also could have started body blocking about here at the tower, slowing the creep wave down. But you basically give up this whole opportunity until it's at your tower. You're basically letting it, like, now your body block. What about all this other stuff that you could have body blocked? And then when the creep wave actually meets you right in the middle, because you basically did almost nothing. But if you had done just a little bit more body blocking, the creep wave could have been here, which means the TA would have had to hit up high ground to get last hits, or at minimum he'd have to pull the creep wave past to get them to low ground. And by doing that, it generally pushes the wave, which means you should be able to hit 2 first, and maybe you can end up killing him or something like that. So you basically take a potential advantage, and you kind of just ruined it. And here's another thing. You're not near the creeps when the creeps are actually getting low enough. So here's an example. So this creep is about to be ready to be last hit. But look where you are. You should be standing here instead. Because now when you're like, oh, it's time to last hit, you run in, and by the time you get there, he's already denied. You can't make that kind of mistake. Don't spend mana like this either. It's a huge waste. You basically have pretty much 3 spells, and you used a level 1 spell to harass your opponent. That basically does about as much damage as you right-clicking him once. It's so much better if you'd instead save your mana until you hit at least level 3. Like, that did 54 damage to this hero. I'm pretty sure. 54 damage. That's pretty much what your right-click would do. It'd be far better for you to actually just use... just don't use your mana like that. Just right-click him instead. Like, look at that. You hit him twice, and you did twice the damage that your shockwave did. Like, if you use your mana, the only time that you should ever use your level 1 nuke to nuke somebody is if you're getting a last hit while you do it. Like here, if you would have gotten the last hit while nuking him, then I'd be like, alright, you got the last hit. At least you also did damage to them. But generally, you only want to use nukes like that if you're not going to be able to get the last hit otherwise. Don't just spam it because you're like, hey, I can get a last hit and harass them. That's cool. It's like right there. What's the point? In some ways, it helped you get the second hit, but I'm still not very sold on it, to be honest. I'm guessing you pop your clarity potion here. I have genuinely no idea why you ran all the way back. I'm guessing you alt-tabbed or something because you had to do something. And that's kind of what it seems like. It looks like you're alt-tabbed for whatever reason. I'm going to exclude this, obviously, and say, like, oh, whatever is happening, because clearly you had something to handle, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that, but... I mean, it's very obvious to you and to me that that was a big deal. Also, using your shockwave there right before you hit level 3 when you could do double the damage instead. Yeah, you're clearly trying to handle something. So basically, delaying your bottle by this much makes a huge impact. Basically, T8 has gotten like an extra 5 or 6 last hits that she wouldn't have had otherwise. Like, you were kind of being competitive, but now she's definitely ahead of you, which means she gets a faster bottle, which means you actually beating her in lane becomes more difficult, and you're still AFKing. I don't know if you're typing or what, but like, this is another thing. Why even use shockwave here if his shield might still be up? And now you're out of mana. And now you're getting your bottle, but we're already 2 minutes in. Like, the difference is if you get your bottle before the 2 minute mark, for example, like, you didn't even need your salve here. So you could have gotten it 100 gold earlier. And assuming you were an AFK, alt tab doing something else, you could have gotten it maybe 30 seconds, I don't know, 20 seconds earlier or something. And that means you get your bottle before the 2 minute mark instead of purchasing it at 250 and then slowly running it out. And now you feel like you can't even fight this guy. Number one, you're out of mana. So you can't actually use mana to harass and get last hits. And you don't feel as competitive right clicking. So it's like you pretty much put yourself into a corner here. Like, he is crushing you on last hits now. This is mostly because of ineffective mana usage, but that one was good, I thought, because you got 2 last hits out of it. But you certainly needed to have more of a presence in the lane. That is absolutely a certainty. I have a feeling you're going to nuke this, but I really hope you don't. The only reason you should nuke the wave when he's not here is if you are either... I know you're going to nuke this, but you really shouldn't. There's no reason. Why'd you nuke this? Nobody's here. You don't need to go fill your bottle somewhere. There's no bounty rune that you can grab. There's probably not a regular rune. Why use your mana? You could save that and do something with it, like harass a hero. All you did basically was buy yourself a little bit of time. Unless there genuinely is a bounty rune there, then this will be worth it. Maybe. Okay, there is. It's just a graphical bug for the replay. My bad then. Either way, it's okay. I'll let it pass. I think that's semi-reasonable. You are going to lose the last hit here because you pushed it out a little slow. You actually lost 2 last hits. Gold and experience-wise, so that was a bit of a loss, but it's okay. It had a purpose. Not sold on that. I think that was an unnecessary shockwave. I feel like you're going to walk all the way to the bounty rune right now. Alright. You may feel like this was worth it.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
Okay. You got the range creep. So you ran over here to get the shrine and then get the bounty rune. Let's compare instead of what you lost. You lost 2 melee creeps and a range creep. And the tower took a bunch of damage. Was that worth it? I'm going to say no. I don't think it was. I don't think it was at all. Yeah, you got a bounty rune. But I would prefer if you stayed in lane presence. I think too many players will go to bounty runes because they think, hey, it's bounty rune, hey. But it's better off to get... it's better off to stay in lane in almost all cases. You've also had almost no lane presence against the TA. You've basically done almost nothing to her offensively. You pretty much just sat in the lane and kind of farmed. And you're kind of matching her now, so it's okay-ish. But her level is actually ahead of you. She's about half of a level ahead of you, and that's because of the fact that she's actually been in the lane more. She's denying you a lot more as well. She should be denying all of these creeps, literally all of them. And you're kind of just letting her do this. Like, you keep running out of bottle charges, and you're like, well, I need to go get more bottle charges. And then you leave the lane, and she gets like... You're like, this was a full wave of experience that you just could have had experience to. And then you just walked away. Look, like, you're not even here to get the experience for the range. Why not stay? There's a chance there is a rune top, but we're 5 minutes in. That rune's probably been there for a minute, which means it's probably gone if it really is there. Like, you empowered the range creep. What the hell's the point of this? To give the creep like 12 more damage or something? My flex is turned on. It's gonna lag a little bit. You're not being effective in your lane at all. You're basically, the way that you're playing the game is like the only way that you can farm is by having mana. And then you just go on a search for mana every time that you don't have mana. When instead you could just sit in your lane and do something. And now you're rotating to the top lane. Like, you're basically playing the perfect example of what not to do in the mid lane for scaling. Like, you literally are almost only last hitting using spells. If you don't have mana, you run to the bounty runes to refill your bottle, and then you run back to your lane. And now you're attempting a gank. This one kind of looks okay just because this guy's low or whatever, but honestly, you don't even need to be here. The Knicks had that one without you. Alright, your chances... Alright, I guess you are going to get this kill. I'm still going to say that was really stupid. Either way, though. You got a kill and all. But that was... You also could have bought arcane boots at the side shop right here. Another huge mistake. I don't really give you too much credit for the double kill, basically. That was a stupid moment to gank. You basically left the lane after grabbing the bounty rune to walk top to maybe get a kill. I'm not a huge fan of that. I feel like you probably... I also felt like your player perspective on it just wasn't very strong either. Like, you didn't really see the stuff coming. You just kind of went there. And now, here's another case. Because your mana pool is just low all the time... You basically feel like you have to use bottle charges just to get your mana back up. I don't know what you're going to do with this money here. But like, look how much time you've wasted. You're just now gonna hit level 2. Like, you just hit level, you almost hit level 7 here. But let's go back and see how long it took you to go from like 5 to that point. So I just feel like it's so long. 5 minutes 10 here. Like, the fact that you even came for this is ridiculous, actually. The only reason that this kind of worked is because the tower hit that guy like twice. And he then tanked creeps for like a million years. Like, let's watch how bad this guy fucks up. Look at this. He's actually standing there tanking creeps. This is the only reason that you got this kill. So basically, for this guy to die, he had to fuck up really bad tanking creeps is the only reason they got the kill. And they had a warden lane and they didn't react properly. Yet you still came top lane. You got a kill here, but it's because your opponents are bad, not because you made a good choice. And this guy died too, whatever. I don't know why he has 1300 gold. He should have a little bit more. If he had like phase or something, he'd probably live. Like, you played this part okay. Like, that you played that fine. That was good. You got the kill. But you should have bought arcane boots here. You should have TP'd back mid, and then you should probably focused on like pushing and stuff. And you went mid again. And you're getting last hits and stuff like that. But again, you're missing regen. What do? You get way out of the lane and you go looking for more mana. And this was fine. But again, I would have used the fountain, the shrine, and then I would have bought arcane boots once your mana pool is full. So you pop this invis way too early is another important thing. Like, you actually don't have that much time left on being invisible. You got actually pretty lucky that these guys grouped up as 2 here. Because you had pretty much like a 10-second window where you had the opportunity to actually use your combo on somebody. So even popping the invis here was a waste. Like, and this is literally all as a result of you relying way too much on your mana for you to last hit. And this is something that happens all the time, usually for lower MMR players. Like, you're making decent decisions when you use your skills, but you're using them way too often, and as a result, you never have any mana, so you feel the need to run around for bottle. Like, you'd be better off bottle crowing, in my opinion. I'd rather you bottle crow here than actually just ditch the lane and go on a hunt for bounty runes and spend like 20 seconds running all the way to a bounty rune, grabbing it, running all the way back just for, what, 2 charges? That's 120 mana. You're literally running across like a huge chunk of the map for 120 mana. That's 1 1/3 spell of Shockwave. That's it. That does almost nothing. This is maybe a higher level of Magnus trick and maybe something that you know how to do but you didn't do. But it's really good for when you want to RP skewer somebody, that what you do is, because when you RP, your axe comes down and it stuns them in front of you. So if you turn, if you click behind where your hero is and then you cast RP, as you're casting, your hero keeps turning. So basically what it does is it would end up with, instead of them being here, they would be over here. So that way when you RP and they're only stunned for 2.25 seconds, you don't have to walk around to the other side and skewer them back. So if you right click behind you, press RP, they'll be in front of you. You can instantly skewer them under tower, which would basically mean that they take damage faster. See, you had to, here's their stun bars. You stun them and now you're about to skewer, and they're not going to be stunned anymore. Whereas instead, they could be stunned and skewered under tower, taking damage. So this was cool, but instantly they start running. And in fact, this guy took the tower damage because he just happened to be in the front, and he gets refraction off, which means the tower actually didn't help very much, with the exception that it broke refraction. That's literally all it did. So you do get the kills, and this worked out, but it was really greedy. And there was just such a high chance that it never even worked out in the first place. Those guys just happened to stand next to each other in that 10-second window where you had the opportunity to potentially get a kill. And again, we're out of mana, so what do? Time to go find bottles. And again, you're just ditching creep waves, man. These are creep waves. This is gold. You have 21 last hits here. You're supposed to have about 50 last hits, at least at 10 minutes. And you are not even going to hit 30, I don't think. Because again, you're going for runes. So instead of being such a little, like, you're just completely beholden to bounty runes right now because you have this bottle and you feel like it's the only good way to get mana. Here's another solution: buy arcane boots. Just buy arcane boots. It increases your mana, basically doubles your mana pool. And then when your mana pool is doubled, you have way more mana to actually cast things like Shockwave. And then when you go back to Fountain occasionally, it'll refill like 600 mana and your bottle instead of just refilling 300 mana in your bottle. Which is why you're basically running every single time to go get bounty runes. It's because you're like, I need mana. But look at all these creeps that are going to die. And now you're just gambling the game every single time that you leave the wave. That's 3 creeps now. This is 3/5 of the total experience in the wave just gone. It's like 75% of the gold that you could have gotten from this wave gone. Instead, you got a bounty rune that's worth maybe like 60 gold. So it offsets like half of that. But I guarantee there is so much more experience in this creep wave. Like a bounty rune, for example, I think gives you the same experience as it does gold. So if you got, we'll say 70 gold to be generous from that with 70 experience, a range creep is worth 90 experience. A melee creep is worth 45. So grabbing the bounty rune only covers 2 melee creeps. It doesn't cover the third. And a lot of the cases you miss the range as well. And maybe this works for you because maybe if you were bad at last hitting, for example, and you just weren't going to get the last hits anyways, then maybe grabbing the bounty rune is better. But I literally have watched 9 minutes of you just like walking to bounty runes all game is all you've pretty much done. Like, and now you're just rushing a blink dagger. Like, this is just not an efficient way to do this. Like, you could buy arcane boots with a bottle, and maybe even like a raindrop would be another good way to do this. Just buy like a raindrop for 225 so you have an extra 0.85 mana per second. Because at least then over the course of 100 seconds, you have another shockwave. That would be good too. So yeah, all of these reliances and focuses towards mana, obviously they help you in your lane and they help you get more mana. Where you're focusing so much on one static way to get mana, and there's so many other ways to get mana that wouldn't require you to run across the map for bounty runes pretty much every time. That was actually really dangerous. You're so close within the tower attack range. Look at that. Yeah, just buy arcane boots, buy a raindrop, do something like that. You could even buy like power treads and do tread switching every time you bottle. That way you're getting more value out of your bottle every time. And this time what you're doing, you see a hero, you're thinking about running across the map, but now you're close to blink dagger. I mean, it's great that you almost have blink. It's fantastic, but you don't even really have the mana pool to make your blink go that far anyways. It's a relatively good timing, but you could have arcane boots and blink dagger at like 11 minutes or something, I am sure. And just by having arcane, you could just stay in your lane more. Because like, again, the pressure that you put on the TA is non-existent. You've done literally nothing to stop her other than that one invis rune. So now even if you can go for a gank here, look at your mana pool. You basically have enough to cast 3 spells tops and you're done. That's it. You can't do a long chase. You'll get this bounty rune here, and again, you're going to double the charges. Like, you could have, this whole time you could have been using charges to like trade hits with people, lose HP, and then use bottle, for example. There's like a lot of stuff like that that you could have done. I hope you don't just RP this. I think you've made a mistake if you haven't gone for this yet. It's again the same thing. Stun duration is very, very low. I think you could have done this a little earlier. This is a really good example of a potential gank that you could have had. Like, if you actually had mana right now, this is the easiest kill ever. You just wait 3 seconds and then you blink in and get a kill. But instead, you're out of mana. Like, I guarantee you would have killed this guy. Would have been kind of close, maybe, based on his HP. You probably would have had him, I think. You might have had to blink, right-click, and nuke him, but he would have died. Could have more kills there if you just had mana pool. Now you're going to go get a bounty rune. Oh, hey, there's an enemy here.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
But it's still kind of the same issues repeatedly. Too low on mana, too low on mana. And now you're getting arcane boots. And, like, you're actually just running past creeps. What is this? That's gold, man. Gold gets you items. You could also just go back to base at some point. It's not a sin to stay on the base, to stay on the map, or to go back to base once in a while. When you're this reliant on mana pool, you're basically like not adapting to the meta in the slightest right now. Like you could actually just buy a raindrop or anything else. Like, how many bounty runes have you grabbed this game? Like, my god. Look at all these creeps that you could be last hitting. Got 35 last hits at 13 minutes. You should have 35 last hits at like 7 minutes.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
So like from a skill usage, you're doing okay. But from a gameplay usage, from a farm perspective, you're playing not good. Not good. Your farm rate has been real bad. Your skill usage has been pretty good, I would say. When you do use your skills against heroes especially, you're using them well. That part's fine, except for the whole RP turn thing. That's the only thing you're messing up that I've seen. From a mana conservation and mana optimization, you're also playing terrible. So you got to focus on those two. They're so important. You like farming with nukes, and if that's the case, you got to get better at farming to buy items that allow you to farm with nukes. Like, you just ran all the way to the top lane after buying arcane boots to buy a TP scroll to TP to the bot lane. Like, how is this even happening? I don't understand how. I don't know, maybe they just don't have vision. Let me see. Oops. Let's go over here. Maybe you did that from darkness. I'm just very surprised that you are, based on the way that you're playing the game, I'm very surprised that you are getting effective kills and stuff like that, I suppose, is how I would explain it. Because pretty much every single time you're using spells just to get last hits, pretty consistently.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
That was good. I like that. I actually would have skewered him personally when he was down here. Skewering him to the right, in my opinion, was a mistake. And also, don't skewer them towards his safety. His safety is his tower north or to the right towards this fountain. So if he starts doing rearming here and you guys are both high ground, I think you're pretty safe maybe. Maybe you're scared about not catching him with the skewer. But honestly, you could have just literally gone an inch. It was a little unnecessary to shoot him this far. It was really not needed. So that's kind of the thing with Magnus. You can do all the stuff that you're currently doing while also farming a lot. Like, your net worth is up there, but you're not completely stomping. And considering that your KDA is 4-0 and 2, you should be the most farmed hero in the game. No matter what. You should be the most farmed hero. If you're playing a game where you're getting kills and not dying, you will be the most farmed if you're farming at a reasonable rate. But you're not at all farming at a reasonable rate. So now your playstyle has to get all of this successful ganking for you to even go even with enemies. You have like 600 more gold than the TA, even though you've gotten a crap load of kills. And that guy has he's died twice. Like, you should be crapping on him. And you're doing well, but you're not stupidly far ahead. And that's because you just haven't been farming. Now you buy a raindrop. Bro, you could add this, like, actually at minute 3. Minute 3 you could have had a raindrop. And then that's been 13 minutes. Let's do some easy multiplication. 13 times 60, that's how many seconds? Alright, 780 seconds. We're going to multiply that by 0.85. That gives you 663 mana. So literally from minute 3 to now, assuming that you hadn't lost the charges fully, which obviously is maybe a little unrealistic, but either way, 660 mana. That's like your whole mana pool, just by buying a 225 gold item. Rather than running all the way across the map repeatedly to get bounty runes, use one of those creep waves to give you a raindrop, and use that with your arcanes, with your bottle, to have a lot of mana. And once you have a lot of mana, you will use it to get farm as you do. But you will have more last hits, and you'll still have kills. You get both. This skill build is also supremely a mistake. Almost no pro player will max skewer right now. They almost will all get empower. This is the easiest RP I've ever seen. You really should have been auto-attacking this whole time, though. Again, you're kind of making the same mistake as before, and that you're focusing on the... Like, you could attack right now. Attack this GQ. Instead, you're walking around just to skewer, but you realize the stun duration's almost gone, so you do this, like, point range skewer. You could have done that forward. You could have RP'd, attacked, done a short range skewer, nuked, attacked, gotten 2 hits off during the stun duration. But instead, like, by the time this ends, he's only at half HP. Could have been done a lot earlier, basically. And now partially because of this, look how much harder this chase became. Because you didn't min-max your damage against this guy. So, yeah, maxing skewer like this is usually seen as wrong. Keep in mind that the extra damage it does per level is okay. It's 70, so it's a little bit low. But usually you want to max out on power first, just because of the fact that it increases your farm speed, and you can also cast it on some of your cores and help them farm a lot faster. For Luna, maybe it's less important because she's not a melee hero, But if she gets Moonglaive maxed out this fast, then it's really good, because this does damage based on the bounce. Or based on her primary damage, since she basically already has cleave, right? So it doesn't matter that she's a ranged hero.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Oh god, did you just empower a melee creep? Or a range creep? I'm gonna hope that one was a misclick. Doesn't look like she actually has Moonglaives on her. I'm gonna assume that was a misclick. This was a very generous TP. He actually does not have Ice Path for some very confusing reason. I'm gonna go back and check the perspective here, so I want to see exactly what you're looking at. Okay, you saw the PA. She's taken tower. You TP'd. I think you just now realized that the Jakiro was there. Playing this one way safe. Dare I say too safe? You also let that creep die for nothing. That could have been your gold. So I would say against a PA, the best thing you can do probably is just spam her out with spells, get her low, and then try to go for a kill. But the whole way that you approached this was very weird. You basically came to the lane, you instantly ran away from the creeps to grab a bounty rune, and then you left because your HP was too low. But look how much gold you just passed up again. You're kind of doing the same thing consistently. It's like you don't care about creeps. Okay, so I'm gonna go into free camera now and watch these creeps. Let's see all the creeps you don't get elasted to. You got one. Like, you got one of the 5 creeps, and one of them you didn't even want anything to do with. Like, what's the point? Did you come to the lane just to stop the tower from dying? I'm not sure. Also, whenever you nuke a wave like this, it's better just to wait until you're going to get 2 guaranteed last hits. Wait until the one creep that's being attacked. Like, if you just would have waited a little bit, this creep was, I mean, maybe not super close, but a little bit longer, and it would have just died as well. You'd get 2 last hits every time you throw a nuke like that. And now you're running back to base, but instead what you could do is run over to this camp, farm it, and then go back to base. You can even use spells on it. It's fine. You could skewer to this camp, use Shockwave, attack it like 5 times, and then blink home. But instead you're running all the way back to base. You're basically playing irrelevant to the fact that farming exists in the game. And that's not the right way to play this game, honestly. This Dagon build, I've never seen it before, but it's not terrible off the top of my head, just because you do have a 15% spell amp perk, which makes your Dagon do more damage. So that's kind of a cool idea. That said, I would say it's bad against TA, usually. I would say it's good against Alchemist, and I would say at least up until like mid-game, and I would say it's good against PA. So I'm actually pretty down with this build right now. It's a little dangerous though. Something like a Force Staff might be better in some cases. You could also justify in a lot of ways something like a... this is good. I like how you did this one. In some ways you can justify something like a Ghost Scepter sometimes, depending on the heroes as well. But I think this is okay. You're doing a decent job. I would certainly swap your Stout Shield with either of these items, either the Null Talisman or the Staff. It's not like you're hitting creeps anyways, right? Looks like you bought wards too. You do push creeps. I'm amazed. There's certainly to be something to be said about farming creeps too often, but you are clearly farming creeps too little. That's really, really obvious. So this will be your Dagon on the way. Looks like you guys are all getting Dagons actually. Which maybe makes the build a little bit better. But I don't think I've seen you do more than just farm one creep and then ditch, though. One creep wave, that is. And I think you should prioritize it a little bit more. 68 last hits at 20 minutes. You really should be a little bit over 100 some. And if you do watch a game like this, it may be a little confusing. You may be like, yeah, the Magnus is doing nothing but farming. But a lot of the point is, I mean, there are like kills and stuff like that that you can prioritize when you're playing Magnus. And you should do that usually, sometimes at least. But you're not prioritizing creeps at all, and you really should be. At the very least, you could have prevented TA from getting as decent of a start as she got. I think that would have been something you could have focused on. Gold per minute versus damage is kind of just up to you, considering you're buying a Dagon 5. I'm okay with this. I think the build synergizes decent with the way that your talent trees go. I wouldn't necessarily say it's probably not the best idea, but I actually think it's okay this game. It's kind of cool. So yeah, it looks like you're just going to max it out. And I guess this kind of solves some of the issue that Magnus has to deal with, is that it's hard for him to transition towards killing people that are tanky or dealing with allies that may not back him up very well. So I'd say the whole Dagon idea is decent. It's not bad. Yeah, Skewer doesn't work on creeps, but I think you know that now. I would also be very willing to clear Ancients. Like, this is another example why having Skewer maxed out isn't that worth it. It's good against heroes, but it actually doesn't make you farm creeps faster. So some kind of mix between Skewer and Empower might be better in the future. Because honestly, you can just hit up these, like all the times that you use your bottle just to regen your mana, you could have instead just farmed a large camp or an ancient camp. And then your bottle gives you HP regen and mana regen, making the item a lot better. Also, whenever you're using bottle charges, it's actually really good for you to drop Arcane Boots. That way, it heals a higher percentage of your mana pool. Make sure you get your last hits. And at this point, so it looks like your plan now is basically farm until RP's off cooldown, and then go for a gank. And then go back to farming again. Most likely. Yeah, it looks like your team is just crushing them. But they did have like an overly greedy lineup, so I'm not too surprised here. Again, you could have farmed this creep wave on the way back. You're playing this game based too much on bounties. Like, farm this camp next to the bounty rune, then farm these ways. Instead, you're grouping with your allies who were already pushing the wave, and now you're just making their game more inefficient. Like, Nyx could have just kept farming this wave if you really wanted to. But you being here kind of prevents that and counters it.
Dire's top tower has fallen. Dire's top tower is under attack.
So pushing the waves here is good. This is what you should be doing. That's all good. See how you deal with this one.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
You got a Dagon in 3. This. Okay, this is a pretty good skewer considering.
Dire's top tower is under attack.
Oh, I see, after you shockwave, do you run out? Okay, yeah, I would just go TP home at this point.
Has fallen.
Well, that sucks. You gotta wait for your bottle to come off the thingy.
Dire's structures are fortified.
I think you're relying just a little bit too much on bottle still. I would have just TP'd home. That would have been easier than waiting 6 seconds just so that you got your bottle gave you an extra like 60 or 120 mana and whatever the HP was. Just go back to base sometimes. You should farm this large camp 100%. You're messing up. Like, look at this. You're actually crossing the whole map to get 100 gold. It's just so unnecessary. Think about your Dagons, dude. You could have more Dagons. You could get your Dagons faster. I do understand that there's a bounty, so being in the area for track gold is very good, but there's so much farming that you can do that you're not doing. You're crossing the map for bounties, and the only time you should ever do that, in my opinion, is if you're playing like a support who's fast but doesn't have any AoE clear. Like I played Oracle the other night. That hero cannot farm AoE. It's ranged. Can't get like maybe by Maelstrom or something, but you shouldn't as a support. So I basically just ran around with like 400 movement speed and a blink dagger, and I was just picking up bounty runes like crazy. That was like okay, kind of. But if you're Magnus, you have literally the best farming skills pretty much between Shockwave and Power. Shockwave is 90 mana on a 7-second cooldown. And Power just makes you do a stupid amount of damage. You'd be hitting for basically... Do you have Lunar Blessing? Okay, so that's cheating a little bit. But basically you'd hit for like 250 damage directly and then cleaving like half of that. Which means you should be able to farm really fast in between your ganks. And now you guys just wait till they leave the base and you nuke them. Easy stuff. Like, you just hit 100 last hits. You could easily have the exact same KDA while having stupid amounts of gold. And being more efficient with your time. And your levels would be better too. Like, this is actually... This blows my mind. Look at this. 6, 0, and 9. You've died 0 times. And you're only level 18. Like, these guys are actually out-leveling you. And that is simply because they're better at hitting creeps. Like, this guy's 8, 1, and 5. Arguably around the same position, but he's 4 levels higher. That's not because he has an experience perk. It's not because he has a Midas. It's because he's actually killing things that give him experience. And you're not doing that in the slightest. You're pretty much only getting experience from getting hero kills, is it? And that is why your levels are too low. So if you do a mix of both last hitting well and killing opponents, you will be so stupidly far ahead and you aren't there yet. Even the Nyx Assassin, but he's got a lot more kills, and he also has a Midas, so it's a little bit cheating. But I think the Loon is a good example. She has 200 last hits. And honestly, I think you could have something semi-similar if you had just gone for a build that gives you slightly more mana without the need to run across the map and collect bounty runes. And then you could have still had the build you wanted and gotten more creeps on the way. It would have been a lot better. So I think we've hashed this replay out enough. Let's hop into the next one. The next one was a Queen of Pain game. So hopefully we see a lot more focus on you getting last hits, because it's really important when you play Queen of Pain. You have a whole 0 deaths in this one. Hopefully you got more than 50 last hits by 15 minutes. Oh, okay, then we'll slow it down. Alright, let's take a look. Bracer start. Wrong choice. You do not need an HP increase for the start of the game. What you need is a base damage increase, because you should be using your hero to ensure that you get more last hits than your opponents. That is the most important thing. And that's the way that you should be playing this. A gauntlet does almost nothing for you. It just gives you 60 HP. 60 HP is good. I'd prefer you just buy a circlet. Honestly, that'd be better than buying a gauntlet. Obviously, you need the bracer. But do you? What are you going to build with this bracer? Drum? So it doesn't build a whole lot of stuff. It actually only builds drum right now. That means you're buying this bracer to build the drum. And if you do that, I'm not a fan. This gives you 9 damage, 6 int plus 3 damage. It gives you 6 strength. It gives you 3 agility. It gives you attack speed in the moment and gives you movement speed. But I think this is a little bit unnecessary.
Stop chewing on that.
Doggy. The movement speed is unnecessary because your hero has a blink. So you can basically avoid all these problems anyway just by using blink. I'd prefer that you just go... I mean, that's even assuming you make the drum. If you just make the bracer, then you're completely wasting your money, in my opinion. Because you could just buy a null instead. Nulls are cheaper, much less cheap, or much less expensive. Let's see what the cost is exactly. Null Talisman is 470. Gauntlet is 505. It's not as big as it used to be, but it's less money and it's better for your hero. The only difference is you get what, six strength on a bracer. So this is basically like the basis of 1v1 matchups, is you need to have more damage than your opponents, because if you have more damage than your opponents, you are going to have more time that you can try to last hit before they do, which means that basically if you guys are very good at last hitting, that you should simply have a better advantage than your opponent. It's probably not going to matter because you're only a 3.8k player as of your submission, but if you're better than them, all right, if you last hit better than them, then it doesn't matter, right? It's kind of regardless. But if you have more base damage and you're better than them, this guy should actually get 0 last hits pretty much, except for when he happens to use the laser on you and prevent you from attacking. That's pretty much the only time he should ever get a last hit. So what exactly is the point of the gauntlet then? Like, unless this guy gap closes you or tries to burst you down in the moment, I would prefer you buy a Fairy Fire, honestly, than a Gauntlet of Strength. I think that's better, minimum, straight up. Fairy Fire gives you 2 damage. It gives you 75 HP in the moment. The only way that Gauntlet is better is that every time that you regen, Gauntlet is technically becoming a Fairy Fire every single time. And technically that is superior. But honestly, this is maybe a small criticism, but it really shows a lack of thought for your starting item build compared to what you should be buying. If you're going to use things like Dagger to harass him, maybe you should be using that at level 1, to be honest, because it's not going to start him on the right path of harass. And there we go. Also, including it with right-clicking is really important. He used his laser here at the wrong time, so you should be able to abuse this guy a little bit. Another thing that you're missing is by not having an Ironwood branch, you have to run to hit a tree every single time that you want to use a Tango, and that's kind of costly for you. And again, I think you could be right-clicking this guy a little bit more. Like right here, you've had some opportunities. You are more mobile than he is, so you should always try to pressure him a little bit, try to keep his HP low. And every time you use Shadow Strike, that's good. It does 50 damage, and then it does like another 150. So you're doing like a 200 damage nuke at level 1. That's good. But if you're not also including right-clicks with it, then it's not actually going to get his HP that low that fast. And it's going to also mean that every time you harass him, it's also costing you mana. And you started with 2 sets of regen again, but look at this guy's build. He actually just went for pooled tangos, which isn't that weird. It happens. But if that's the case, you should be pressuring the crap out of this guy. Because if you guys both just fight at level 1 and you both lose 400 HP, he loses because you can back up, use your salve, and what is he going to do? He'll have to Shrine, basically. And, you know, Shrine definitely offsets that a bit because it's literally right there. But if you force him to use the Shrine there, and then you do that again, and then you shrine, then he's actually screwed. Or he'd have to use the other shrine, which would screw his offlane, you know? Like, you're not abusing his lane at all. And even going 2 points in Shadow Strike here, I think is a complete waste, because you're not even harassing this guy. He's got 1 tango, and you haven't done anything, except for occasionally walk forward and use Shadow Strike on him, in which case he responds with a laser. So what you should be focusing on instead is actually pressuring this lane, because you're not doing that at all right now. You're actually just sitting in the lane getting last hits. And you're last hitting very well. You're definitely last hitting very well. You're last hitting much better than he is. But you should mix harass on him with your harass spells on him. And that would give you way more advantage in this. That was the first good laser he actually used. Okay. He used laser. Go mess with him. Like, he actually can't use laser anymore. He's got a missile. It's going to do good damage. But go slap him. He's got no regen. He's almost at bottle now. And we're 2.5 minutes in. This guy actually just greeted out a bottle, and you didn't even punish him. Whereas you technically went the non-greedy way, but you also didn't get the bottle at a good time. And that's because actually you got it at a good time compared to him, because you had good last hits compared to him, but you also didn't put pressure on this guy. So you had a less greedy item build by far, but you didn't get anything out of it. Like, every time that you use Shadow Strike, ideally you could right click him twice. And if you just do that, you're like doubling the harass that you do to him. But almost every single time, like, get those last hits. Why are you walking back for this? I have a feeling it's because you want to go search for bounty runes. But again, same thing. There's creeps right here. You're dominating this guy. You're 12-4, but you're just letting him catch up here. But instead, okay, that time you're awarding, but like, that's so many creeps you just lost. Melee creep gone. I think you'll get experience for this one. Nope, you didn't. Full wave. I mean, honestly, you might as well be dead. Like, if you're missing 3/5 of a creep wave, you're making a huge mistake. Like, the faster that you hit 6 is the earlier that you can kill this Tinker. But instead, you're walking around the map. You just spent like a full creep wave walking to go put an observer ward down. For what purpose? Because you're worried about getting ganked or something? Maybe you're scared of the SB charge or something, but like, look at their heroes. There's not that much gank danger. Even if SB's pre-6, like, how is this guy going to kill you? He'll get a bash on you, he'll get a charge on you, and the only way to kill you is if he gets a lucky bash. Like, you don't even have to be concerned that much with this ward, in my opinion. And you get this kill here, but let's be real, the Lich rotated. Are we even going to go on that guy if he didn't do that? And the only reason he is low, by the way, is because he only bought 1 tango and his bottle isn't there yet. You actually could have easily gotten this kill yourself, actually, right now, especially when he lasered. You should blink right now and dagger this guy. But it wasn't until now that you decided to go in. Like, this is literally 100% Lich. Being like, please, please, Queen of Pain, kill this man. You're losing a lot of opportunity there. Okay, now you're severely out of health. Popping a salve here. Now you're going for the bounty rune. But again, at least Lich is... Okay, literally no one on your team is going to get the experience. Experience in the early game is so big. If there are just creeps dying, somebody should be there to grab that experience. But instead what you're doing is you're pretty much always prioritizing refilling your bottle and a bounty rune, which is just not that worth it. Like, you had a last hit advantage, like a huge last hit advantage over this guy, but look at it now. He's actually even with you at 4 minutes. And you wrecked this guy in last hits. And it's literally just because you just walk away from your lane and you don't come back for a bit. Every single time that happens, he's going to get like 4 last hits because he can last hit when you're not there, easily. Where did your mana go? I'm confused. I thought you had Scream here. Alright, that's your boots. Did you try to bottle crow and mess up? Alright, you blink away. Grab your boots. Oh, they're in the stash. Okay, that sucks. Alright, and you're getting a TP scroll. This is good and all. There's your finished bracer. Don't do this ever again, please. It's bad. Should be a null talisman. If you want an early game item, buy nulls. Get like 1 or 2. Because the damage they give you is so good. If you buy 2 null talismans for just under 900 gold, it's not that cheap. It's basically like 940 gold. 940 gold, you get 18 right click damage, which is like probably a 25% increase or something. And you get, 12 int, which is... It's like 14 something mana. Oh god, this is bad. 24 plus 120. 144 mana. You'd have 144 more mana. If you just have a bracer, this only gives you 36. That's just if you go double... Just a double null talisman. Hey, your HP is low. Time to run and find a shrine. Let's compare his levels. He's actually ahead of you now in levels. On last hits, he is still behind. But he's also died, I believe. He's died once. And if we look at his net worth, you're actually moderately ahead of him. But that's mostly because of the kill. There hasn't been enough downtime for to see like separation. Also, instead of buying a bracer, you could just buy power treads hypothetically. Obviously, you needed those starting items. But at least you should have like a null talisman. At the least. There's basically no excuse to not have a null here. And you certainly should be 6 faster than this. This has been a big loss in terms of your experience gain. This is the next issue with hitting 6 early. Is that, or I'm sorry, with getting 2 points in dagger, is now that you're kind of screwed because you have 2 points in dagger. And now you can't get ulti and then finish scream at 7. So your burst is a lot lower. Again, you're relying almost entirely on fixtures on the map for you to get mana. And again, you're ditching creeps because of it. You can't do this anymore. Sit in your lane, get your last hits. You got 24 last hits and we're 7 minutes in. That's atrocious. It's really low. You gotta have like at least 50 last hits by 10 minutes. The only way that that's okay to not have that is if you have like 5 kills. Then I'm cool with it. I don't care how many last hits you have. But you only have so many. Alright, you got a bounty rune. I would prefer actually that you check for a regular rune. Okay, it's actually bottom, so that's good. You've got that. So it'd be a great time to gank if you had your ultimate. I wish that you had your ultimate. You should have this. I maybe would have... I actually feel like you could have used your arcane rune. You should have done this before you harassed him, because that would have saved you like 50 mana here, and whatever this was. This is a huge amount. You basically would have saved like 130 mana. Oh, you missed your scream. If you had your ultimate, that guy was dead, by the way. Versus your 4th point and scream. That's a dead hero. You shouldn't do this. This build is bad. If you go 2 dagger, you have to get your ulti at least. Just get your ulti. I feel like you skip it because you feel like you don't have the mana, but you don't have the mana because you're inefficient with your mana. That's the issue. Again, leave in the lane entirely to go refill your bottle. This is literally the number one thing that I would say that you need to fix. Is that you're being way too focused on mana. You should get all those last hits. You only got 2 of the 4. What the hell are you buying, bro? Buying a cloak, okay. The cloak purchase is not in any way good. I don't like this build in the slightest. That kill was fine. Good for you. Oh, that guy's mad. That was a haste rune that you passed up. Alright, so you got a haste rune. Again, kind of similar thing. By the way, you just popped a haste rune so that you could use the bottle charges instead of saving the haste rune to get a kill. Not a good thing to do. Kills are better than bottle charges. You didn't even get that catapult elastic because you went off to get a bounty rune. You also just ate a mango. God, Tread's cloak. What is this shit? Come on, man. What is this? Just gonna tank damage for your team? Like, your hero needs some tankiness by all means, but this is not the way to do it. This is not the way to do it. If you're gonna buy Treads, buy it earlier too. Don't buy a bracer first. You could just buy like a circlet and 2 ironwood branches and make a wand later, and I would be happier than what you've done here. Tread switches will go to int when you cast spells. If you're not doing that, you're wasting mana. It's the reverse of tread switching. Makes all your mana go farther. It probably gives you like, I don't know, whatever 9 times 12 is. It's a lot more mana. It's basically like 100 more mana. Luckily though, you're not tread switch bottling because you never change your treads, so everything's good. This is very dangerous. If you had tread switch, I guarantee that you would add mana to use your ultimate right here. 100%. Which you maybe could have used on the Spirit Breaker. You're also not paying attention to your allies at all, when you actually maybe could have re-engaged. You gotta pay attention more to your allies. It's like once there's bounty runes on the map, you know where you should be right now? Top lane. Look at that. Look at all that juicy gold. You guys just lost a fight mid. You don't need to be mid. Look at this. 3 melee creeps, 2 range creeps, and a catapult. All for you. Instead, what are you doing? You're running for bounty runes? Yep. Looks like you're actually going to fight here, which is good, but... But what's, like... You ran all the way here for the off chance that maybe you'd help, but you got, like, 4 eidolons. Instead, you could have just pushed top and actually gotten a lot of last hits and more levels. And you're leading the pack with experience, but considering you haven't died yet, you should be higher. You should probably be, like, at least level 11 right now. And all these things add up. You also got the strength perk. I don't know if Quaps are doing that right now or not. I would say that I'll I'll excuse it just because they have pretty good disables against you between like Enigma, Spirit Breaker, Meepo, all that stuff. But I'm not sold that it's a good choice. I just don't think the cloak's a good idea either. It doesn't block Tinker Laser. It stops his missile, obviously, or reduces it at least, and it reduces poof, and it reduces magic damage here, and I just don't think it's ideal. It's kind of expensive. Like, the faster that you get an Orchid, the better I feel. And I think you could also rely more on Wand to keep your survivability up. I think that would be better, personally, than relying on just Bracer, for example. Like, just no Wand right now, and then start buying Orchid, or maybe buy Cloak if you really feel like you need it. I think that's better. Or just carry Raindrops for a long time. That was not the right time to ult. This man is going to die. You really shouldn't have screamed there. That was a huge mistake. So now you have no mana. Looks like it's going to work out, but you should have more mana here. The mana really should have done that first. Alright, back to Bounty Runes, I imagine. So you're mostly using your skills, okay? You could be holding these items, by the way, and getting mana regen from them. And mana pool, of course. Tread switch, damn it. Oh god, Bounty Rune. Nothing else matters. Get these items on your hero, damn it. The only benefit for these being here is that your opponents won't know what you're purchasing. But let's be real, you're a co-op, you're probably thinking about buying an Orchid.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
You're doing the same thing, man. You're buying Raindrop at like 16 minutes into the game. But this item is better early. Early in the game, there are less encounters with enemy heroes, which means that there's not as many chances for them to break your Raindrop. Which means that if you just buy this at the start, it'll give you a lot more mana when it's important. Like now, you don't even have space for this item is the problem. But if it was in the laning stage, okay, you can swap it in. But you know that could be a Sage's Mask as well. In fact, I bet a Sage's Mask gives you more mana regen right now than an Infused Raindrop does. You also need to move your camera on more. You don't even really know if it's the right time to go in on these guys. Alright, that was well done. I like that. Please tread switch. Oh my god, you're losing so much mana from this. I'd honestly prefer if you bought Arcane Boots if you're not going to tread switch. The attack speed is needed though, so you probably should still buy it, but like, for the way that you play this game, I think you need to buy Arcanes. Because you're not tread switching, you're losing so much value from your spell casting. You just got to get used to it, and you're fine. You'll get so much more out of your build. So, just about 500 gold to go. Guess it's good that you're pushing with your allies, but realistically I don't think it's super safe for you guys to push here. You're running in way too far to cast that. That was very dangerous. That was a nice mech by them. You should consider going back in. I think you made a huge mistake ditching your team again. There's a chance that you could stay around and get a kill. But instead you're a slave to Orchid. Or slave to Bounty Runes. Much like many players recently. I know Bounty Runes are enticing because you're like, hey, there's gold. I can get that. Like, right now, you could actually just hang out near where Rubik is and possibly just kill Meepo. Like, look at this guy's HP right now. That guy could just die. Certainly could die. Is he? No. It'll be Rubik Knight. Actually, very easily, yeah. This Meepo is 100% dead if you're here. Because you would have double ultied and probably Orchided 1-2. That's a dead Meepo. Instead, here you are. Bounty Runes. The only thing that's good about you not farming ever is that you're fighting and pushing towers all the time. But the problem with you not farming is that you don't have as many items. So I would prefer that you do, ideally, farm sometimes. Hey, another Bounty Rune. Who could have called it? Should have certainly used Scream on the Eidolons there. Yeah, lost an opportunity. I don't know if you needed to blink, but you could have walked forward, I think. Okay, last hit so far so good. Except for that one, jinxed. I still don't know what you're doing with your cloak here. Obviously the magic resistance is nice, but I don't think it's necessarily something you needed to purchase. If you're going to use the Scream on a creep wave, you should always hit the range creep. At least once. So it's really greedy by you. It looks like you're going to live because cloak and raindrop, let's be real. Like at this point, I think it's okay to buy a cloak, but for you to buy bracer and then cloak and then afterwards finish power treads, that was the wrong choice. At this point, it's good because your HP is actually high enough. Cooldown reduction, I'm down with. I think this is a good choice. Was a nice. That was very close. If he actually used his thing on you. That's good. Alright, I liked how you played that. That was good. Buying Ags next. Ags is a good choice. You're certainly farming a lot better this game, but I think that's mostly as a result of your heroes more mobile, so it's easier for you to collect bounty runes faster and therefore use bounty runes to actually cast your spells on creeps to get last hits. But I think you need to improve the amount that you farm. This game has been very, very fight heavy, but the farm levels are still way too low. I think the game is pretty much straightforward at this point. You're just going to keep buying items. I'd rather go back to the point at maybe like 10 minutes or something where I want to see how much farm you had at 10 minutes. How many last hits? At 32. So it's still really low. You got to get close to the 50 mark, like what this jug is doing here. 50 last hits at 10 minutes is great. If we just compare your net worths between the two. Look how much more gold he has. Isn't that incredible? He's also got 3 kills, so it's maybe not the same. But if we just do the math, say, what, 32 last hits versus 51, so that's basically 19 creeps. And we'll assume that an average creep is, we'll say 40. 40 times 19. He's got an extra 760 gold. That is a stupid amount of gold. So a lot of guaranteed net worth just from that. You're basically only 600 gold behind him because he has more kills than you. That's it. You could have power treads finished and an extra 900 gold after that. So you could have power treads, bracer, cloak, and 900 gold right now at 10 minutes in the game, which could very soon be turned into the first party of your Orchid. So there's so much that you could do in terms of farm rates. It would make a huge impact on everything. You're focusing way too much on runes. You are a slave to runes. Like, bounty runes are a bait. They make you feel like you're doing something, but there's actually more efficient ways to play the game. And certainly you can get way more experience by farming creep waves. That was made insanely clear after your first game. So we have a little bit of time left over. I'm going to hop in the Lich game because I believe I was able to download that one as well. And we'll take a look at how well you play support. I have a feeling that you spend a lot of time looking for bounty runes. So we will check to verify that. And once that is verified, I will command you to stop grabbing bounty runes. Dog is barking, sorry. And instantly, she runs to my side. Okay. Okay, so, starting game. This is like what you should start Queen of Pain. Oh god, is that a double stout shield? I haven't seen that in forever. Oh, it's so cute. It's so cute. Please don't bite that. You will electrocute yourself. Oh god, she's starting to get into electrical cords sometimes when she gets real bored. Okay, let's see how you... Oh, is that a courier? That is actually a courier. My god, why is that there? Here, let me pet you to distract you from reality. Alright, you messed up right away. Sacrificing melee creeps is wrong because the amount of experience you get is based on the experience that the creep gives you. If you use it on a melee creeps give 45 experience, range creeps give 90. So you actually just gimped yourself already right off the bat. You got half the experience. And keep in mind that's a swing too. Please don't smell my apples. I didn't finish eating them. The swing is huge because that's 45 experience that they can't get now that you now get. So if you use that on a range creep, it's a swing of 180 versus what you just did was 90. It's twice. It's twice as much. And it's also not generally a good idea to let the range creep through in the safe lane because this pushes towards you. Which technically doesn't matter because you were doing that anyways by playing Lich, right? So level 1 Lich is kind of a weird thing. I'm not a huge fan of where you put your Observer Ward here. I wish you instead, because like let's see the vision it gives, pretty much shit. This should have been placed probably here. This would have been better because then it would at least get vision here. But generally it's better to put it in the lane somewhere here or maybe over here. That way you can see them approaching the lane. Whereas where you have the ward right now doesn't really do very much. Oh, you do have Drought Aura though. That's kind of nice. So yeah, right-click the crap out of these guys. It's good, yes. Again, range creep. Not this guy. You'd be level 2 right now if you did range creep. And it would delay the point that they actually get level 2. In fact, like look at this. You guys are barely ahead of them. And that's because you've sacrificed two melee creeps now. Not to mention some hit or deny stuff. Like, you using sacrifice on a melee creep, with the exception of that it gives you experience, is equivalent to you denying a range creep. That does the same thing. Which is like a whole completely different can of worms if you had just used it on the range creep instead. Which would have been completely different. Now you're completely out of position. You should be dead now. See if they're able to do this correctly. Yeah, it was probably the easiest kill I've ever seen. Huge mistake. You forgot about where the Crystal Maiden might be, and as a result you got killed. And now becomes the issue if you're playing a support like Lich, the extra experience that you're giving, as soon as you die once, you're kind of just messing everything up, because now they're way ahead of you in levels. Maybe not the Drow here, because she got her own level, or her own lane for a little bit, but it's important to not die when you're playing Lich. Like, winning the lane with Lich is so much about experience tempo in the early game. Like, I get that you're getting a lot of mana from the melee creep, but especially at the very least when your mana's full, you gotta use sacrifice on the range creeps. It is a completely different ball game when you're stealing half the experience advantage. At this point, the creep wave is far too pushed up, so what you should actually do is walk back and do a small camp pull. You standing in this lane is okay, but it'd be better for you to probably go pull. Like, you're kind of harassing this guy, but he's offsetting it with time walk, so pretty much every time you nuke this guy, it does nothing, except for put his time walk on cooldown. So it'd be better for you just to pull instead. In almost all cases. The only good thing about you being here is that because of you standing here, it's slightly more scary for them to actually try to zone. And also not maxing out sacrifice. I think it kind of depends. There's different games for it, but this is a damage increase of 75 with the second skill point. So basically, it's a really good level 1 nuke that's 125 damage. But the level 2 nuke only does 200 damage. So it becomes quite a bit worse. Which means, in a lot of ways, I think just maxing sacrifice, or at least getting 2 points early, is so good. Just because, again, every single time you use against a range creep, you give your team a range creep of experience, and you get a lot of mana as well. So I think 2 points in sacrifice I prefer personally, just getting the cooldown lower. And you get more mana from it too, which means you get to use more Frost Blast. Because even if though you have 2 points in Frost Blast, and your Frost Blast does more, you can't even cast Sacrifice to get the mana to cast Frost Blast anyways. And it's a decent enough 1 point skill, so I'd prefer to go 1-0-2 personally if I'm in a dual lane like this. Or if you really expect to rumble with them a lot, or if you have like, if Faceless Void was your carry and you were against a Drow Ranger, I'd even consider getting Ice Armor as well. Because at least then if they attack your Faceless Void as your Faceless Void dives them, they get slowed by movement speed for 30% for 2 seconds, and same for attack speed. That's cool. But the way that you did your skill build here is not really that helpful. Let's see what I don't know what you bought here. Maybe you bought Flying Courier or something. Part of the reason that you just have very little experience, I really hope you use this on the Catapult at least. Catapults are a lot of experience. These have as much HP as melee creeps, which means that you get as much mana, and they're worth more experience. You messing up, bro. And you still should be pulling, because you could be generating your own gold and levels. And therefore the Drow could be solo and getting her own levels, but instead you're just forcing this 2v2 where they're getting just as much as you guys are. And you could be getting more. Especially with sacrifice. Like, I don't know, just your nukes against Faces Void feel so worthless. It's partially just because this hero counters you, but the other aspect of your hero is not being abused. Like, you have to abuse this laning thing for Lich, otherwise you're not playing the hero right. Because you have no disables other than slows, and if you have no disables other than slows, then your hero's gonna suck at some point if you don't get a bunch of like Chronosphere kills in the mid game, which means that you have to at least abuse the laning stage. And again, we're in the same position here where you just don't have very much mana, and that's because you haven't been using sacrifice. I'm sorry, because Because you only have 1 point sacrifice. That's a dead hero. Oh, self-saved her. So did the double Wraith Band, perhaps. Although I think she should have gotten maybe a Basilius earlier, because then that would give mana to you, perhaps. Might make it better. So, this laning stage was pretty weak. I think your skill build was a little off. The sacrifice on the wrong targets made a huge impact, and you should occasionally pull, but you didn't really do. You didn't do any of that. But other than that, like your harassment has been okay. Your use of Frostblast has been okay, but it just doesn't stand up very well against these guys. So you need to win the lane in ways other than just like right-clicking and spell usage and stuff like that. I think that would have been a lot better. Okay, I think that is about good. I think we're at about an hour. I may be off slightly. If I am, I'm sorry. But hopefully you learned a lot from this. Stop taking bounty runes. It's maybe the best training you could go through. Take them sometimes. Grab a bottle. Grab them sometimes. But there are going to be certain circumstances where it's better for you just to grab a bounty rune. Go grab a bounty rune, farm a jungle camp or two, and then go back to heal in the base while the support is sitting mid or something. Or just grab the bounty rune, run straight back mid. But push out lanes first. If you're going to go grab a bounty rune, push the lane really fast with spells, then go grab a rune. The only problem is to do that, you need mana in the first place. And most of the time you'd grab bounty runes when you didn't have much mana. So just push the lanes more if you're going to grab bounties a lot. Okay, thanks for signing up. I appreciate it. Sorry on the delay for making this. But either way, thanks for signing up. Bye.